Mike Radich here, and I'm now joined on the phone by Fight Time Promotions lightweight champion Vagner Rocha. Vagner, how are you?
Doing good, my friend.
Vagner, you got a fight coming up at Fight Time 13 this Friday. How's training been going for the fight?
Training's going excellent, man. I'm at my peak right now, getting the last couple pounds off this week. About to make weight on Thursday, and get back in the cage again. I found November, and feeling better than I did in November now. I'm healthy, I'm not injured, so I'm getting in there and take care of business.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier when we were talking before we got on air about you were teaching classes. Is that normal for you during a fight week to, still be around the gym, still helping other people out, or is this kind of just a different thing because you're fighting at home?
No, I do it. I do it even when I always had to fly away.
Mm-hmm.
I teach all the way up until I leave, and I love teaching, man. That's something I started. Before I started MMA, I was teaching already, and it's just something that's always worked for me to keep it fresh in the back of my head. What I need to do, what I teach, always helps sharpen in my toes.
Mm-hmm. I see. And now you're going to be fighting Cameron Naval. What do you know about him?
I know a little bit. I know some details here and there, but there's a bunch of videos on him on the internet. I know he's a 50-50 record, but he has wins with submissions, and he has wins and knockouts, and I see he's a decent wrestling, and he's got fast hands. He's smaller. There's a smaller 55er, I think, for the height. So it's those are some of the things I know about him. But, I'm just going to go in there and do my thing. It's not about who I'm fighting. It's about me going in there and performing.
Mm-hmm. Have you been able to find any video on him?
I found a couple.
Mm-hmm.
Very little.
Mm-hmm. I see. I'm not.
Most guys have a lot of video on the internet, especially with YouTube nowadays.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not very familiar with him. This is the first time I've heard of him before. He's kind of an up-and-coming guy who not a lot of people have heard of. Doesn't have the big show experience. How do you view this fight? Do you view it as a very dangerous fight for you?
Yeah, it's different. When you fight somebody, you don't know what to expect them to do. When you know somebody's name and you've seen them fight, you kind of have an idea what their game is and what they're good at and what they're not good at. But at the same time, it's a fight game. You got to be ready for everything. So I'm not really worried about him or what he's going to do. I just got to be worried about what I need to get in there and get done with.
Mm-hmm. Your opponent is coming off a long layoff. I think his record says the last time he fought was January of 2011, so over 2 years he's been out of action. First, do you believe in ring rust? And second, will it play a factor in this fight?
I think, I don't think it's more ring rust. I think it's the adrenaline that you first get when you first fight. When you stay a long time without fighting, you get that again, And I think, maybe he was practicing, getting better. Maybe he's more of a dangerous opponent now than he was 2 years ago. Age and resting and going over. Really, if you really want to do this, sometimes is actually a good thing, and sometimes it can work against you. Like you said, ring rust.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could play a factor, but I'm not counting on that. So I'm going to go in there and fight him like as if I was in the UFC and I was fighting anybody else, or I was in any other big organization, like the Fight Time, and just, defending myself to better my record and move on to bigger and better things.
Now, obviously, Fight Time is putting him in this fight because they think it's going to be a good, exciting fight, but are you a little bit disappointed by the opponent? Were you hoping that you were going to get, maybe a UFC veteran like yourself, someone who's been to the big show before? Are you okay with fighting an up-and-coming guy?
It's Fight Time's decision. I think, because this fight is not going to be a title fight, and I'm not defending my title, it was partly the decision to give me a guy like Cameron, who's an up-and-comer, and at the same time has some fights. He has more fights than me. He has 13 fights.
Mm-hmm.
So his record is, it doesn't do it justice, but some of those guys he fought are really tough, and actually I know some of them, and I trained with them. And like he went 3 rounds with Junior Assunção, which is a tough dude I've trained with before, and
mm-hmm.
I can't, I give the guy credit just for being 3 rounds. So, he's a little walk in the park. He's not going to be a guy who has 2 fights, 3 fights. He's got a long amateur record, long professional record. So he's definitely going to be in there. He's going to be a game opponent. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I'm not really disappointed with anything. Mm-hmm.
You mentioned that this is not going to be a title defense. You claimed the Fight Time Promotions lightweight title in your last fight. You also, I think you won an ISK title as well, right?
Yep, the Florida ISK title.
Yeah, and what was the best part about this win back at Fight Time 12? Was it beating Mike Bruno, a guy that you had bad blood with in the past, winning the ISK and Fight Time titles, or was it just getting back on track with a win?
Man, that's a tough question. I really like all 3 big time, the title, being Mike Bruno, and getting a W. But I think I'm going to have to go with getting the win because, my last fight was probably my worst loss ever, I had 3 losses in my career, and my first loss was, I fought an opportunity to fight in Strikeforce, and I was really sick, and I went fighting anyways like an idiot, and lost a 3-round decision because I didn't have anything in the tank, and I never, that's one thing that I always pride myself in, is having good cardio, and because I was sick, I barely made it out of the second and the third. And then my second loss was to Donald Cerrone, which is, everybody knows who that guy is, and
sure.
kind of opponent he is, and I wasn't prepared to fight him. I wasn't at that level yet. There's a lot of things I needed to fix, and I lost that fight, and then the loss to Brookins was the worst loss to me because I got KO'd, and I've never even felt anything like that in my career, and to go through that adversity, I wasn't sure. I thought about it for a second. Should I be fighting? Is this the right move? I have a successful school. I do a lot, very well there. But I've always had my heart in fighting, and fighting is number 1 to me. That thought crossed my mind for a split second, but it never even came close to consuming me. So going back in there and training hard and proving myself, that I belong to fight against top-notch, tough dudes, and beating Mike Bruno, who was on my hit list, period, at the time.
Sure.
It was definitely a big important thing for me. The W was more than anything else.
Mm-hmm. Are things, cool with Mike Bruno now? You guys have fought. Are things done with that whole disagreement? Is that all over with?
Yeah, I never had nothing against him to begin with. Mm-hmm. The only thing I had to hold against him was because he was trashing me for no good reason, He was just bad-mouthing me about me getting an opportunity that he didn't get. So, I wasn't mad at him personally. I was mad at for what he was doing to me, And he actually did me a favor, by doing that, by trashing me. He was Fight Time's boy, and the only reason I think I got the title fight against him was because he had won 4 fights in a row, and Fight Time wanted to put a game opponent in front of him, and I think that was the reason why I got the title fight. And by beating him the way I did, Fight Time saw that they had a good opportunity, with me coming off a big show and performing as well as I did, to represent their promotion, and their promotion's amazing in Florida, so, to put me in there and 1 + 1 = 2, and Mike Bruno did me a favor at the end of the day by trashing me and then by accepting the fight, so. Mm-hmm. I had nothing against him, period, and to me it's squashed, so, I don't know how he feels, at this point I'm happy with what I did, so that's satisfying enough for me.
Mm-hmm. Now, these 2 titles that you won, are those your first belts, or do you have others?
No, those are my first 2 titles I've ever won. I won, jiu-jitsu stuff, but MMA, sure. That's the first time I ever won anything like that.
Sure. And now you have a multiple fight deal with Fight Time Promotions. What exactly are the terms of this deal? Is it exclusive to Fight Time, or do you have a UFC out? Or are you, just exclusive in North America to Fight Time, and you can fight overseas somewhere else? What exactly are the terms of this deal?
There's some exclusivity in Florida. I'm a Fight Time guy. Mm-hmm. But if I get the call, to come back, fight in the UFC, Fight Time and Carla and Howard were great people. And they know, the UFC is the biggest show in the world right now, and they're just trying to get better with their promotion, and they'll be understanding, and they'll release me to fight in there. So it's definitely got some outs, but it's also it's to make sure that I'm with them, and as long as I'm not in the UFC, I'm with them. So that's the game.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you fought Mike Bruno, you didn't have a contract with them. This was just a one-off. Did this contract come because now you're the champion, or did it come with just you liked how Fight Time was running their shows and you decided that it was a good fit for you and they offered you and you accepted it? How exactly did this whole contract come together?
Yeah, I had one fight with them, and then after the Mike Bruno fight, I saw how professional and how amazing their show was, and I took an initiative, and I told Carlo and Howard that I wanted to be a part of their show. I really enjoyed it because I really liked the War Memorial event, the place where they hold it. That was the place I saw my first MMA fight, and the vibe I got from their whole event, their whole production, and everything from beginning to end was just so professional that I knew I wanted to be involved in it. I had fought in other events before, in Florida, out of Florida, all over the country and the world. So I knew that, this was a good place. I wanted to be a part of it, and I knew that, that it's very hard to match and to find good events like theirs, and we got in touch, and they liked me as well for my performance and my personality, and I think we made a good pair, and that's how it all began.
Mm-hmm. This Friday, Fight Time 13. How does the fight end?
I'm always chasing the finish, whether it's going to be on my feet or it's going to be on the ground. I'm looking to finish. My record is my wins are pretty favorable to finishing. A lot of submissions, of course. Any way I can get it, I'm going to chase it. But I'm going in there to fight, so I'm coming in there with my hands up and chin down and bang it out and try to get into the ground if I can. If I can, I'll stand on my feet, and I've been training a lot to stand up, and I've been feeling better than I've ever felt in my whole career. So I'm going there to win and finish. Mm-hmm.
Vagner, real quick before I let you go, do you have any sponsors you would like to thank, and is there anything you'd like to say to the fans?
Yeah, I want to thank Bromwell, who's one of my major sponsors. They help me out a lot. They provide me with all sorts of great gear from my MMA training and sponsorships throughout my fights. They're great people, and it's privately owned, so they really take care of the guys who they sponsor. And secondly, I have a gym in Pembroke Pines, and if anybody lives in Florida and wants to come down and get some real good jiu-jitsu training or MMA training, just look me up in Vagner Rocha, Florida, VagnerRocha.com. And also, I want to thank all my students, friends, training partners, Hit Fitness Warehouse, who helps me get my physical training in, my preparations, Cyborg Gym in Miami, who helps me get a lot of serious good jiu-jitsu training. So there's a lot of people out there that are contributing to everything that I do, and I just want to thank them, especially my students at my gym, who help me and get me ready every day with training.
Vagner, thank you for taking the time to talk. I really appreciate it. Good luck this Friday at Fight Time 13 against Cameron Neville.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.